What is up, guys? Welcome to the ThinkComputers weekly tech podcast. This is episode 333, and our podcast this week is brought to you by the Patriot Viper VPR 400. This is a Gen 4 NVMe SSD that does feature RGB lighting. Obviously, I am holding it here, so it's not connected to my computer, but it does have some pretty cool RGB lighting if you want to add something cool to your system with a Gen 4 NVMe SSD. If you go to thinkcomputers.org/VPR400, it will bring you right to the product page and you can check it out. I believe it's available in 512, 1 terabyte, and 2 terabyte. I'm not sure on the 2 terabyte, but I know it's available up to 1 terabyte because I have the 1 terabyte here. So definitely go ahead and check it out if you want to add some bling to your system and get some super fast Gen 4 speeds. With me, of course, back from vacation is Ryan. Have you? I was just thinking about this, talking about the VPR 400. Have you upgraded your system to all Gen 4 SSDs?
The all Gen 4, no. I have a. I did go with the Sabrent Rocket, the Gen 4 drive. There, just a terabyte, and then I also have a Patriot. What did I review? It wasn't a Gen.
It's like the VPN.
Yeah, it was a VPN drive.
Yeah,
no, I have not upgraded to all Gen 4. I have just that single drive, and then I have 2 SATA SSDs in here as well. So don't look at me like that.
Yeah, I have all NVMe
don't look
drives,
at me like
but
that.
They're not all Gen 4. My next build, which we've been talking about forever, but it's definitely happening soon. I keep on saying that, even
you've said that for like a year, I think.
But my next build, it's just going to be all Gen 4 NVMe SSDs. So hopefully that will happen soon. But Ryan, you pretty much went on vacation.
Yeah, like perfect time. We had nothing going on in tech, right?
We had the biggest stories that we've had all year in this time that you were gone. And I was like, I really want to do the podcast, but I can't do it without Ryan. We can't talk about certain things, obviously, without Ryan. So we held off for a week and we're back here.
Yeah.
We have a bunch of people in the live chat already. Our friends over at PC Test Bench are here. Damon. We have Jim from Home Gadget Geeks. We're going to be on his podcast tomorrow.
Look at that.
Oh man, I need to get one of those t-shirts. I gotta order one of those t-shirts. But we have Jim. We have my good friend Corey's in the chat as well. Mark Live is here. We have everybody's just hanging out. It's a tech.
They missed us. Yeah,
they must have
1
missed
week
you.
off.
And I don't think they come to see me, so they're definitely here to hang out. And we have so much stuff to talk about. Yep. We're gonna jump into reviews before we get into these major news stories because it has been 2 weeks, so we have a handful of reviews. While I bring up my review, Ryan, do you want to bring up yours as well? Because I forgot to tell you to do that.
Yeah, I can do that.
I took a look at a case last week. In this case, I talked to Ryan about it too. It's so big. It's like one of the biggest cases that I reviewed all year. I didn't
add it in there.
You took off my stream. There we go. It is the Cooler Master HAF 700. So I don't know if you guys know, but Cooler Master back in January, they announced it at CES, was the HAF 700 Evo. Basically the same case as this, but that version had these tempered glass blades that went down the front, and it had a circular LCD that showed stats, and you can control the case and things like that with it. That case was $649. This case is only $339. $300. I think it's $299. Basically half the price. You lose that LCD in the front. You lose those glass blades on the front. But beyond that, the case is pretty much the same. So you have the same frame, you have the same cooling capabilities, and this is going to be a case that's going to support all of the crazy high-end hardware out there. It's a massive case. It's huge. It's actually sitting behind me. You can kind of see it in my shot there. But this case is just big. It's just a big Cooler Master case. If you're not familiar with Cooler Master's HAF series, it's like one of their most famous series. HAF stands for high airflow. And just by looking at this case, you can see it's definitely a high airflow case with our mesh pan. Go ahead.
Go back 2 shots real quick. Just to like another example of how big this case is. Back in the day, you used to get like an 80 millimeter fan at the back of your case, right?
Yeah.
And I had some cases that had 2 120s in the back. But yeah, those are 2 120s in the back, right?
Yeah.
They look tiny in this thing. So this thing is enormous.
Yeah, it's huge.
Anyhow, go ahead.
So we're gonna go over pretty quickly. Definitely check out our written review if you want like crazy details on the case. But at the front, we have 2 200 millimeter intake fans. These are ARGB fans, which I'll show you. And one really cool thing about the front of the case is they split the I/O up, which I'm a huge fan of. So on one side, smaller reset button, larger power button, and then your audio connections over here. And then on the opposite side, you have 4 USB 3.2 Gen 1 Type A ports. And of course, you have a Type C. This is USB 3.2 Gen 2x2. So if you do have a super fast portable SSD, it will support that right there at the front, which I really like. You can take the front of the case off. It is a little hard, and I go into that in the review itself. The top of the case does have this ventilated panel, which basically takes up about 80% of the top of the panel here. And you can easily remove it. There's a thumb screw at the back, and it just pulls off, and this reveals your cooling options at the top. Now, the cool thing about the top of the case is that the entire panel, you remove the side panel, and then this entire top panel can be taken off the case. So if you're installing water cooling, you're doing radiators or even fans, it's just much easier to do it outside of the case. So they make that an option. Now, this top panel is insane. It doesn't look super big here, but once you remove the 2 side panels that kind of extend over it, there's a lot of space up here. So as far as cooling goes, you can do a 420 millimeter radiator up top, or you can do dual 360s side by side, which is just so much space as far as cooling goes. So if you're doing like an insane water cooling setup, this case will definitely support it. I didn't mention the front of the case. The front of the case, you can see the fans. It will only support 2 200 millimeter fans. That's what the cutouts are for. But Cooler Master does say that the front of the case will support a 420 millimeter radiator. So definitely keep that in mind. Big, massive side panel. This side panel is heavy. It's tempered glass. It looks nice. It's going to show off everything in your system. The opposite side panel does have ventilation, which is for your certain components. And there is a side mount cooling bracket here, which I'll show you once we get inside. Back of the case is pretty interesting as well. We have a dual compartment design. So we have our main front compartment and a back compartment. We have those 2 120 millimeter ARGB exhaust fans right here. You have basically just a bunch of ventilation for if you did install like radiators up top or fans, you have ventilation there. As we move down, this does support full ATX. So you have 8 expansion slots, and they are toolless. So there's this thing, this little bracket here that pulls out. This will lock in all of your expansion cards, so your graphics cards, sound cards, anything. They lock in toollessly, which I really like. And then your power supply goes over here, and it is mounted vertically. So that's pretty much the outside of the case. Getting inside, there's just so much. You can see we have this really big. One thing about this case too that I didn't mention is, you take off that top panel, and then the side panels sort of lift off. So when you release the side panel, it doesn't fall. These are very heavy side panels, and if this side panel would fall, it would scratch your desk. It's just like you're going to scratch your desk. So I really like it that they stay locked in place until you unless you pull them out. That just makes things so much easier. And again, it protects your desk or whatever it may be. You just don't want these panels dropping because they will break something. But we have our motherboard tray here, and this tray will support mini ITX, micro ATX, ATX, extended ATX, and this case does have standoffs, so you can do like the SSI EEB boards or the super huge boards like the ROG Dominus Extreme. The largest motherboards that you can find will fit in this case. And then you have all of these cutouts around the motherboard tray itself. These all have rubber inserts, and they are not the cheap ones that fall off when you put cables through them. Like, this is a very high-end case, and there's a lot of features that just you appreciate as a builder, and that's one of them. And that they all have the rubber inserts. Sometimes you'll see like 1 or 2 rubber inserts on certain cases, and then the rest are just rolled metal. Here, they're all rubber inserts, which I really like. Towards the front here, we have the side bracket. Now, pre-installed on the side bracket are 3 hard drive trays. These trays are completely removable if you don't want to use them. They support either a 2.5-inch or 3.5-inch hard drive. Now, if you remove them, this whole bracket area will fit up to a 480 millimeter radiator if you wanted to install it there. So lots of room for cooling. And of course, fans. If you just wanted to do fans there, you can go ahead and do that as well. At the bottom of the case, you have this removable cooling bracket. It does come with an included 120 millimeter fan. So that is 5 fans included out of the box, and they are all ARGB fans. So you have 2 200s in the front, 2 120s in the back, and 1 120 in the bottom. The cool thing about this bracket is, one, it's fully removable. It's modular too. So you can attach it to the front of the case. You can attach it to the side mounts, and I believe you can attach it up top as well. But one thing that's become really popular is you can actually adjust this and angle it up so you can show off those RGB fans. So you can angle this bracket up, which I think is really cool as well. At the bottom, with the bracket removed, you can see that we have our just a bunch of ventilation, and then we have a filter that pulls out. Now, you will have to remove the side panel to access the filter, but it's a removable filter, so you can take it out, clean it. You don't have to uninstall other hardware per se to
go back to that previous image real quick.
This one?
Yep. So is that it looks like there's a removable bracket right underneath where the motherboard is.
Oh, this, yeah.
Does that kind of like hide your cabling to go?
Yes.
Like all your USB and front panel headers.
Yeah, it hides the cabling, and it just makes it so you don't like knock any cabling out, or you'll see once we get installed like how it works. But yeah, that's basically the idea, is to kind of keep everything nice and clean. And you'll see when we get to the back side of the case, it's sort of the same thing. So when you take off the opposite side panel, you have this main kind of big bracket that sits in the middle. This will support 2 3.5-inch hard drives or 2.5-inch hard drives on it as well. And it uses a toolless locking system. You can see all of these kind of gray little levers. They're all toolless locking, so you can just take this off. Super easy, no screws or anything like that. And you can see it out of the case. And then of all of our mounts that are on it as well. With it removed, we can see those 3 hard drive brackets. Again, they use toolless locking system, and they're super easy to use. That's what one of them looks like when it's taken out of the case. And then once you remove that center section, we actually find 2 PCBs. There are 2 controllers, or one's actually a hub, and then the second one's a controller. So the one up top here, that one is an ARGB and fan hub. So it has ARGB connections as well as 4-pin fan connections, or PWM connections. So all of the fans, minus the one that's on the bottom of the case, all of those are pre-wired into this. Now, this will feed the ARGB signal from the hub, feeds into this, which is Cooler Master's ARGB controller. That connects to your PC via a internal USB header, and then you can control all of the ARGB from software. So from Cooler Master software. What's cool about this is that it gives you the ability to add more. So you can see all of the fans are connected to our, to our hub, and then the hub goes into this single connection. But as you can see, we have ARGB2 and ARGB3 available, and we added Cooler Master's 360 millimeter AIO system. We connected it in here, and then we can control everything with a single hub, which is really cool. So this is all, again, all built into the case. You can see we have these clips, which I have to say, they work so much better than any other system, even the Velcro. They just keep everything nicely organized in there, like super easy. And then on the other side, we have this hard drive cage that has 4 removable trays. Each tray, of course, supports 2.5 inch or 3.5 inch hard drives. Now, you're looking at it, you're like, this thing is kind of hard to get to. Like, it's hard to, maneuver. But there's the little trays that come out. But there's this little tab here that you press on, and it makes it so you can swivel the cage out, and you can fully remove it. So if you don't want to use it, you can actually fully remove it from the system if you want. But it's really great if you're, organizing cables behind there. You just move it out of the way and then put it back in when you're done.
Is it ventilated behind it, or?
Yeah, so on
one
the
thing
back,
I wish, we've seen this design with a couple other cases. I wish there was like some active cooling, maybe a fan behind there.
There's no fan, but you can see the section right here is ventilated.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so it's, like I said, no active fan, but it is ventilated. So if you do have like actual 3.5 inch drives, you want to keep those nice and cool, you can go ahead and do that. Where were we here? So, and then finally, just your power supply gets mounted vertically right there. So, and then we'll go ahead and go through, we'll show you the finished touch. Every installation, this is a massive case. You won't run into any issues. I really didn't run into any issues when it came to installation. Like, it is kind of a cable mess if you don't really wire everything up. But for our installation, again, this all gets covered too, which is really nice. So if you're like lazy like me and you don't want to wrap all your cables and cable tie all your cables, what you could do is that's what it looks like when you put this panel back on. Better. It's just so clean, right? It's just so clean. You don't have to worry about it. You can see I installed a SSD right here. I can put a ton more SSDs. This case actually supports up to 15 hard drives.
Because it looks like you can mount drives on that panel too, right?
Yeah, you can mount drives on this panel. Yeah. You can mount drives on this panel. There's a panel up here that supports drives. I didn't mention that the cooling bracket on the bottom, you can actually mount 3 hard drives on that as well. I mean, there's a lot. You can, and again, you have the 4 that go in this bracket right here. That, there's just, and you can see the other side. Again, our build looks stupid. I know. This is just this tiny. This is the system we use for cases. So we have hardware that will fit in pretty much all cases. Lots of empty space. And that's what I would say about this case is that if you're not doing insane water cooling, it is definitely overkill, right? You're not going to make use. And like with all cases, we've seen this, especially, I talk about it a lot with fractal design cases, the really big fractal design cases. If you're just doing a simple build like this is all dead space, right? Now, Cooler Master has made it a little bit better because you have this mid bracket right here for your cooling. So if you put fans there, it doesn't look as dead, right? But overall, like I said, I mean, I think our build looks great in there. We have a small graphics card. It looks kind of funny. Now here it is with just the fans. I would say because this is such a large case, you're definitely going to want to add ARGB strips in here somewhere if you really want to light up the inside of the case. I think on the next page, we have some more lighting. That's all of our thermals. And so we installed our 360 millimeter AIO, which looks excellent. Brian, you reviewed this AIO. This is the Master Liquid PL360 Flux.
I thought it looked familiar when I was looking at your pictures of it the other day.
Yeah, it's a great AIO. We installed it on the top, obviously. But here it is, even with that. And here's with the side panel on. You can see, like, you would want to light up a lot more of this.
Yeah, a lot of real estate to have so dark.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, I really like this case. It is high airflow. You can look at our performance numbers. It does quite good. It's very quiet as well, even with the fans. I mean, it's very quiet. We have some pictures of the software. If you want to look at the Cooler Master software, super easy to use. It is expensive. It again, the original was $649. This is $299. But this is going to be one of the few cases that is more of a mainstream case that you can fit, like again, like the ROG Dominus Extreme, that you can fit up to, I think it's 17 total fans you can put in this thing. One of the few cases that you can do the dual radiators at the top. Again, 420 in the front, 420 in the bottom, 420 in the top, 480 on the mid plate or whatever you want to call it. There's just so much space in this case. But again, like I said, if you are just doing a basic system, it is overkill. And instead of spending $300 on a case, you could spend $150 and have a case that will fit your needs. But if you are loading this thing out with hard drives, if you are loading it out with the biggest hardware, this is going to be one of the few cases that can support it and cool it, the way you would actually want it to be cooled. So I really liked it. I gave it a 9 out of 10. As I said, for the cons, overkill. It is massive too. So that's something you have to consider. Like this case, I mean, I have a very long desk here, but it still would be taking up a lot of real estate. So definitely keep that in mind. One thing I didn't mention, it was in our installation. I'll mention it really quickly because if you are doing a build in this, it can be annoying, which is when you install your when you take off the rear IO covers, they use these super small screws. They're like incredibly tiny. Now, luckily, I review computer hardware, and I had a little screw head that would fit in here, but like a normal screw head wouldn't fit in here. Like your normal Phillips head would not fit in here. And you can see my little screw head in there. Just to remove those was annoying. And like a normal builder who just has like a normal Phillips head, which when I first started building computers, that's all I had was like a normal Phillips head. It fit pretty much every screw that I needed initially. They would have to go out to the store and buy one of these, which would be kind of annoying. And again, all of the IO, all of your graphics cards, they get locked into place with the plastic things. I just like some normal size screws there. That was the only other con of this case, I believe, that I said. And then like, again, in the price, like I said, it is it is a little expensive if you're not going to make use of the case, but I really like it. I love big cases. We don't see them enough, I would say. But again, if you're somebody like Damon from PC Test Bench who's doing these crazy big water cooling builds, you want the space, and you definitely make use of the space. And I think, you did a water cooling build, Brian. Like having just a little bit more space makes that whole installation process a lot easier. You're not cramping things in.
This case is like begging for a dual loop, right? One for your GPU and one for your CPU. So you got plenty of room up front for like a, dual tower reservoirs, to go with dual radiators on top. So yeah, that's the kind of build this is looking for. In this case for sure.
Yeah, like I said, I really liked it. So and we have I did make a video on it. It's coming up in the next couple of weeks, so definitely stay tuned for that as well. Ryan, did you use this product on your vacation?
I did. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's talk about it.
Yeah, I took a look at the Crave PowerPack 2, and yes, I'm not gonna make a mistake here. This is 50,000 milliamp hour rechargeable battery, like 50,000 milliamps. I'm used to like these little free packs you'll get from like a trade show, right? A swag or something. That's all the battery packs that I've ever had. So when this showed up for review, I was kind of taken aback a little bit. It has some heft to it, and it's decent sized. So I was really interested to use this, and I was excited because I knew I was going on this trip. And I've got 2 little kids, whether or not they plug in their tablets overnight, because they want to use them on the road or whatever, you can't always guarantee that they're going to do it. And if I forget to do it, and I knew I was bringing, 2 Amazon tablets, a Nintendo Switch, a drone, my camera, all these devices that I might need to plug in and recharge at some point along the way. So I was really glad to have this. So multiple connectivity options, which we'll get to in a second. So it offers the power delivery spec of 60 and 100 watts across 2 of the ports, and then just kind of your standard QC quick charge 3.0 specifications. But we'll get into actually taking a look at this device here. So out of the box, we've got 4 ports for charging, and I'll just kind of walk across the front of this. We got a small power button to kind of turn the device on and also show the battery charge percentage, which is going to be indicated by 4 lights here. Now, I'll talk about this in a little bit more detail in just a minute, but this is the only way you know how much charge is on the battery itself. We also have 2 Type-C ports that support the power delivery specification. The first one on the left supports up to 60 watts of power output. The one on the right supports 100 watts. So if you have, a pretty new phone that can take advantage of power delivery, or, I say phone, I keep saying phone, but I use this with my laptop at work as well, which I talk about in the testing section. So you're not just limited to mobile devices or, charging small things.
One thing I like about this, and I have I have a couple Anchor ones, and, I like that the ports are labeled, right? That like this is the 100, because like sometimes you're guessing and you don't know. You're like, I'm not sure which one's which.
Yep.
Like it's labeled here, so you're going to get the best charge, or plugging it in just to the correct one in general. I like that.
Yep, absolutely. And then we have 2 Type A ports that again support the Quick Charge 3.0 specification, and you can use all of these across, all at once. I believe if you're using everything at once. This came out a couple weeks ago, so I'm trying to remember the exact specification. You're not going to get 160 plus whatever other wattage all at once. It will obviously drop down a bit to support charging everything, but it does allow you to utilize all 4 ports at the same time.
Which one's really nice. Is one of those an input port to charge it?
All the documentation I saw was using the first port here, so that's the one that I utilized. Okay. And the reason I did that, this charger that comes with it is a USB Type-C with power delivery support as well. It's just a 45 watt charger, so plugging it into either one of them isn't really going to make much of a difference as far as charging it goes. So, like I said, it does come with a included charging device that kind of flips up and closes for easy transport. However, the charging cable that comes with this thing from tip to tip is 12 inches, which is just not long enough, right? If you plug that charger into the wall and utilize this cable, you have to set the battery on the floor standing vertically so that it will stand up, right? Which isn't a great solution, right? Like in my room, I only have access to a couple outlets. I've either got a desk in front of them or whatever. But if I could have a 3-foot cord at least, so that I could at least put this thing up on top of the table and be charging it, that'd be nice. But it is a Type-C to Type-C cable. It's braided. It's good quality. It's just not long enough. And then also comes with a little kind of silk-like carrying bag. Everything fits in there fine, but there's no cable clamp here. I forget what they're called, like a cord, drawstring thing that keeps it closed. Because you put this thing in there and cinch it closed, and 2 seconds later it's wide open. So you're going to lose the cable or the charger, or something's going to come out. And then the external material on the charger is it's like a brushed metal here. And when everything's in that bag, you could just hear the charger and the cable scratching against it. It's just not a good, right? Like they spent so much time, making a nice product. Give me just a little better bag, or maybe a clamshell, something for it to, take care of this thing.
Yeah.
But like I said, as far as testing goes, the charging piece was kind of a thing that bothered me as far as the cable length and getting it charged. But I also wish that instead of these little charging lights here, we could get something like an LCD screen, or maybe a few more lights to indicate exactly how much charge this device had on it. Because with 4 lights, I ran into this a couple times, right? Like I had 3 lights lit up at one point after charging a couple devices. Well, that could either be 51% battery life or 75%. That's a pretty big difference there, and that may determine, well, what other devices can I afford to charge off of that battery range, right?
Especially if you're in like a dire situation.
Oh yeah, you're like, oh, okay, this is the only power I've got and I need to,
like
my
you're out
phone's dead. Like
camping, or like
what's my
or like
best
we didn't
option?
even mention it. Like there's a hurricane right now in Florida, and like a lot of
Yeah,
people don't have power. Like
right. Not
if
just a travel device.
yeah, so it's just like if you're like, okay, we can only charge certain things. If you have 75% battery, that's a lot different than having 51% battery, especially in like a dire situation. So,
Absolutely.
also anybody who's listening who's in Florida, definitely stay safe. It doesn't,
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I know some people that are down there, so stay safe out there.
So, and like I said, I've seen some LCD screens on other battery devices from other manufacturers that show, your capacity, how much, if it's being charged, like how much charge time is left and how much wattage is going in. Same thing with if you're charging devices, how much wattage is going out, things like that. That would be really nice to see, especially at the price point, which I'll get to here in a minute. But as far as devices, I charged, I charged my new OnePlus phone at work. I utilized it to bring my laptop up above like 20% at work. And that's a 2022 Dell Precision 3560 laptop there. It did just fine, right? The laptop supports power delivery. I plugged it into one of the power delivery ports on the 100-watt port on the PowerPack. Charged it right up real quick. So it's really awesome. Yeah. Let's see here. Yeah. If you utilize all 4 ports, it'll provide up to 120 watts of power across all of them.
That's still
So that's kind of where it maxes out. Yeah, 120 watts of power. That's pretty crazy. And if you use both Type C's at the same time, port 1 will max out at 40 watts, and the second port will max out at 65. So either way, though, like being able to charge or at least get a fractional charge across multiple devices at the same time is a pretty nice feeling there. But then I talked about just I don't know if this is 75% or 51%.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest downfall of it from what you've said.
Yep. Yeah. And that's all that I really found at fault with this device was the short charging cable. The carrying bag was meh. And then the ambiguous charge status lights, right? Just not knowing exactly how much of a charge I have on this, especially at $250. That being said, compared to other devices of similar capacity, that's about the price point you're looking at. Anywhere from 200 to 275, depending on your capacity.
How heavy is it?
I think it's 3.3 pounds.
Okay. Because I have
3 pounds, 3 ounces. Yep.
I have like a heavy, like if you're like in the middle of the woods type one, it's 128,000 milliamp hours, and it like weighs a decent bit. So
yeah, it's definitely heavy, and you can tell most of it is battery, obviously, but it's going to have some circuitry in there, right, to support the power delivery specification and quick charge, things like that. But I mean, it's slim. It's like the size of a novel, right?
I like that. I like. I mean, 50,000 milliamp hours is a lot. That's a decent amount. And the fact that, again, like you can throw it pretty easily into a laptop bag or a backpack, where it's not like, it's not like 10. I'm pretty sure the one I have is like 10 pounds. Like it's heavy.
Yeah, that adds a lot when you're carrying it for miles.
Yeah, so something like that you're doing like an overnight camping trip or something, or whatever, like that's gonna be that's more than enough. Yeah, I like that. So
no, I like it. Tons of charging capacity, quick charge, 3.0 and power delivery support, and then an 18-month warranty as well. Some of these devices you'll only get like a 90-day warranty from some companies.
Yeah,
18 months is really nice. Yeah, right. Yeah, batteries are always rough. We find that out with Dell sometimes at work, where they're like, oh yeah, we consider that battery not disposable part, but a consumable, right? And they're like, I don't want to give you a long warranty on that. So 18 months is really nice to see on this.
Gotcha. Well, definitely check out Ryan's review. I might have to get another one of those. I have like I have like 3 like 10,000 milliamp hour ones, like from Anker. Like they work, whatever. But like just having one that's just 50,000, that's not insanely big, would be good for like a lot of the outdoor stuff I do. So might look into.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna keep it like charged and check in on it, and especially I'll check in on it at storm season though. That's where I'm gonna put it. Like where we go to shelter, to just keep in there, because that'll be plenty of power for, getting some little USB lights. And that's the thing, I have some USB lights you could plug in to get, some lighting if power were to go out, charge your phone. Yep.
Yeah.
It'd be cool.
Cool. Well, our final review, and I'll try to go through it decently quickly because we have a lot to talk about as far as news. I took a look at the Scythe Fuma 2 Rev B. This is Rev B, meaning it's an upgraded version or newer version of their original Fuma 2. The big changes on this cooler is they've added new fans that have a higher static pressure and more stable airflow. And it now supports LGA 1700. So if you're on a 12th gen Intel or new 13th gen Intel, this cooler will support it. So those are the two major changes. This is a dual fan, dual tower cooler. One thing I really like about it is that the front fan, you can see in this picture, is tiny or thin. It's only 15 millimeters thin. And the cooler itself has this asymmetrical design. So if you look at the heat pipes, they kind of push back a little bit. So this is going to be a cooler that's going to have 100% RAM clearance. So when you install this, it's not going to cover your RAM. Like a lot of these coolers, like the front fan will cover your RAM a little bit. This won't cover your RAM at all. And what's really great about that is we all buy RGB memory. If you have an air cooler that covers your RGB memory, it's kind of pointless to have the RGB. So this doesn't do any of that. You can show off your RGB memory with this cooler. Installation is extremely easy with this air cooler. It literally takes 5 minutes. Like, it's that easy. It's super simple. You don't have to remove any of the fans to get it installed. You install a backplate for our Intel installation. You just install a backplate, install Intel mounting bars, and here's a backplate. You just install that, install the spacers, install the Intel mounting bars like that. Put the cooler on top, thread the included screwdriver down through, and lock it into place. It is that easy. It took me about 5 minutes. And we did it outside of the case because we do all of our CPU coolers outside of the case, but you could easily do this inside of the case. You don't have to remove anything, out of your, like, it's really, really easy. And then as far as performance goes, it's sat about in the middle of the pack, here's idle, here's our first load, and here's our second load. So right about in the middle. And it's really good because a lot of the coolers that we have tested are super high-end air coolers. Same thing, dual tower, dual fan, but they're much larger. And again, those cover your memory. This cooler does not. And what's one thing I really like about this cooler is that it's only $65.99. So again, a lot of those coolers that beat it as far as performance are like $100. This is $65.99. It's a good price, I think. It's super easy to install, and it's no frills. There's no RGB lighting. This looks like an air cooler. It's not designed to look like something else. It's just it's an air cooler, and it does what it's supposed to do. And that's why I like Scythe, because they're just they're focused on performance. They're not trying to make something that looks super RGB or anything like that. It's just a good overall cooler that I really like. I gave it a 9 out of 10 and a recommended award. Like I said, it is $65.99. So if you're looking for a non-RGB air cooler, definitely check that out. I want to catch up on the chat. Damon over at PC Test Bench, he said, would be fun to see a 2x 200 millimeter radiator up front in the HAF 700. Yes, for sure. My buddy Corey, he just got the Fractal Design Pop Mini after I told him about it. And he has a really sweet setup. He has an RTX 3090 Founders rocket in there. It looks really good. And then Damon also said, with 13th gen able to hit 350 watts in extreme mode and 600 watt GPUs, dual loops might make a big comeback. Yeah, I'm waiting to see like the new builds we see with RTX 4090 and 13th gen. I'd like to see somebody do like a really big build. Hopefully we see some builds in that Cooler Master case, dual loop or something like that. So yeah, definitely excited for all of that. Case Mod Friday, of course, is where we cover a case modder build that's been completed in the community. This week we have one from Apezilla, and this is like your standard water cooling build. It's nothing crazy, and I love these because most people can do this. There's nothing really extreme about this. Maybe the tubing, bending your tubing might be a little bit hard for the beginner, but beyond that, it's just pretty simple.
This loop layout is exactly like mine.
Yeah.
The only difference, like as far as actually there's really no difference. I just have a vertical GPU, but I have the same series with parallel in the middle there between the CPU and GPU. And then like my bends are the same coming from the GPU going up the back of the case and then across the case up top on the top radiator. But yeah, I like this. This is pretty sweet. I'm like I've always said, I'm a big fan of these builds because they seem achievable for the everyday guy, right?
Yeah.
You get you some hard tubing and a heat gun, get you some extra hard tubing, so the ones you screw up you can throw out and practice your bends and get them a little better, right? Unless you want to use a lot of fittings, which ups your cost tremendously. But this is definitely an achievable build.
And the thing is like the motherboard comes with the monoblock, I believe. If it doesn't, you can easily get this monoblock from EK. The pump reservoir mounts, you can buy that from this is a Fantex case, so you can buy this pump reservoir mount and you just simply mount the reservoir. Like there's nothing done to this case externally. I don't think that would be a hard thing to do, right? So it just makes this build super easy, which I really like. I mean, it's just clean. I like the colors too. So you have the red coolant, red what are these cabling, and then the accent color is white. So the fans are white. The RGB on the RAM is white, and then the accents on the pump and res, like they're white, and then there's whites on the GPU block. It's really that simple. I think I could do this.
That's what I was gonna say. This is the hard tubing build that you could do.
Yeah.
Right?
I think I could do this.
Yeah.
So definitely check this out. Shout out to Apezilla. We have a ton of Case Mod Friday builds, like I always say. So if you want to check them out, get really inspired, or just see what you can do with PC hardware, we have a ton. It's just go to the Case Mod Friday section on the site. There's just so much.
A lot of inspiration, right? Like take hints from builds here and there, things you like and don't like, and throw them in
just kind of geek out on PC hardware. I used to do that way back in the day. This is like years ago. I forget who had. There's one website that had like they had a Case Mod gallery, kind of like what we.
Hard forums had a good case mods area, and that's where I would first.
Yeah,
got
they
really
had
into,
it
into
there for a
mods
while.
And builds.
I can't remember the website. I don't think the website exists anymore, but they just had a Case Mod gallery, and it was like the coolest thing because, especially back then, like we didn't have YouTube and we didn't have these
social
things,
media,
where we could like show off these builds. We didn't even have, there was no Facebook groups that had all this stuff, so it was harder to find. But again, we have a Case Mod Friday section, so you guys can just go in there and easily find stuff. But we'll move on to news. And Ryan was gone during this when this story dropped, and it's kind of.
I think it dropped like the day after our. No. Anyways.
This is really insane because, I mean, it's just insane. So I'm sure everybody watching, listening, you heard this story. EVGA is no longer going to make graphics cards, which comes as a shock because EVGA is NVIDIA's largest largest partner. They're the largest NVIDIA partner out there. But this is not like, it's not April, but it's not an April Fool's joke. It's not.
I wish it was.
When I heard this, I was just completely surprised. Apparently, this decision was made a while back by EVGA. And the guys over at Gamers Nexus, they made a really great video going over everything. They were a lot closer to the situation than we were. I would suggest you watch their video. We have it in the article if you want to watch that video. Again, I would highly recommend it if you want to get the big details on this story. EVGA has said that this decision was more about respect than anything else, talking about respect from NVIDIA. The reason they said that is because, when a new GPU launches, say like the RTX 40 series, which was just announced,
right,
EVGA as a board partner, they have no basic information on the cost of the product and really no information on the product itself before NVIDIA makes the official announcement. So they have like no idea how much is this going to cost. We don't have a whole lot of information, which makes it hard to promote and sell a product initially. They also feel like NVIDIA is undercutting them by offering a Founders Edition at a lower price. And they feel restrained by NVIDIA because NVIDIA gives board partners a low end price, like the Founders Edition price. And then you can only sell a card for a certain amount of, like, the max you can sell a card for, and they set a price, whatever that max level is for a card. You can't go, you have to work within those constraints. And like I said, they said it's not a financial decision. It's about respect. The interesting thing, at least the way I see it, is that all the other board partners are willing to work within these constraints, right?
Right.
Like, MSI, Gigabyte, they all don't, Asus, they don't have an issue with whatever these constraints are. There was talk about the owner of EVGA wanting to maybe retire. He says no. There's a lot of personal things that could be issues. Or maybe he wants to spend more time with his family. Those type of things were suggested in a bunch of posts and videos that I've seen. What's your initial reaction to this?
I don't know, because upset a little, right? Because EVGA, right? I have an EVGA card in my build right now. I've always been a fan of theirs, whether it's their graphics cards, their power supplies, which I typically recommend to people when they ask me for a recommendation. They're usually at the top of the list. Motherboards, right? I've just always been a fan of EVGA and like their warranty and their trade up program and everything that they do for the community, right? They're always running contests. They always just seem like a fair, like, I guess, noble company. So when I saw that they were pulling out of this, I'm just like, I don't know. It feels like your hero is just like retiring, and you're like, oh, what are we gonna do here? And it makes me sad that things got this far, that they were willing to give up almost 80% of their product line.
I didn't mention that
to stop making cards.
That 78% of EVGA's revenue comes from their graphics card division. So that's a big chunk of change that you're not going to have. Ultimately, I was very surprised too. And it does speak it does speak volumes about NVIDIA when your largest partner decides to not carry,
right,
or decides to
that they're willing to. Yeah, that they're willing to cut ties with the biggest GPU manufacturer also, right? It's like the top two, like you're willing to give that up. But it's also odd that they're not like, oh, but we are going to start making AMD cards, or we're going to partner with Intel, right? They're just getting out of it all the way. I did see another story, and I don't know if I didn't look over the podcast notes close enough.
It's not in the story. Yeah, this is the only story we have on.
Okay, so I saw another story and some speculation that EVGA also wasn't as profitable on their cards as some of the other AIBs because they didn't do as much of the manufacturing of the whole card as others do. So they would lose some of their profit margin to other third parties that were, making certain portions of it. I don't know, that was just kind of a rumor story I had seen as well. So maybe that's why they were getting out of it. But Damon said hopefully that they'll free up some R&D bandwidth and can start focusing more on motherboards and come out with some really nice stuff there, which I agree.
Yeah, we did see they already announced their Z7090 boards today. It's kind of crazy. And it's like one of those things. It's like I always talk about, like, I remember having like my DFI LAN party motherboard. Is it going to be like in a while? I'd be like, yo, remember my EVGA video card?
I know. Do you remember EVGA, right?
Yeah, it's, I would really hope they don't go out of business fully, because again, that's a lot of revenue to lose. And they have, I think, some 200 employees. And like when you cut that much revenue out, you can't support those employees. No. I know that some people have moved on already from EVGA. They do make great motherboards, and they do make really good power supplies. They ventured into, they have some sound stuff. They have
cases and peripherals as well.
They have a new capture device too. So maybe we'll see some other, enthusiast centric stuff from EVGA, just like Damon said, now that they've kind of free up a lot of designers and other people who were mainly working on graphics cards.
Yep. It'll be interesting to talk to them at CES.
Yeah,
Well,
and if you do have a current EVGA graphics card, they had said, what did they say? They'll
still support them.
Yeah, they'll still support them. They have enough cards to get through the end of the year. What else did they say? Yeah, they said they plan to run out of RTX 30 series cards by the end of the year. Yeah. So you're still going to get supported and everything like that if you do have the cards. So, man, it's a bummer. Yes. I always like having more options in the market than less options, right?
Yeah.
And we have seen, especially with supply cuts and things, we have seen some companies do some shady things when it comes to graphics card pricing, overpricing. And like Brian said, EVGA always seemed to be like a fair player with their, what's their thing called? Their level up or
their level up or trade up program where you can
they've always done a good job,
and they did good also during the the last 2 years when stuff was hard to come by. They had a good
the scalpers,
right?
Yeah,
they had a good.
Yeah,
they did well to make sure people that deserved or true enthusiasts were getting cards.
Yeah, so we'll see where this goes. Maybe cross your fingers. EVGA finds out that it is better to be in the GPU business, and maybe they get back in. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, that was probably the biggest story that we did have while Ryan was gone. Let us know what you think. Let us know in the comments. Let us know on social media what you think of EVGA being out of the graphics card business. Also, NVIDIA RTX 40 series is official. We've been talking about it for the past couple months. NVIDIA announced 3 cards initially, and we'll go over those just very quickly here. Of course, RTX 4090. And again, they've been doing this. This is going to be 2 to 4 times faster than the current RTX 3090 Ti, 24 gigabytes of GDDR6 memory. It's going to have a total of 16,384 CUDA cores. And the card will boost up to 2,520 megahertz. That's kind of look at the card. Just the same kind of over design. The fan, like we talked about, is slightly bigger.
Just talked about that. Those cutouts there for the larger fan.
Now, how do you feel? How do you feel about NVIDIA not changing the design of the Founders? Because the last 2 generations, the Founders Edition design changed. So we have no real change in the design of the card.
I think you're okay with it. I don't. Yeah. Okay. I don't need something new every time.
Some people were complaining about that. Available October 12th, $15.99 for the Founders Edition. All right. Now we have 2 RTX 4090s, which I hate, which I think is stupid. I don't like it. I don't like 2 different versions because they're not only 2 different versions with different VRAM specs, they also have different CUDA core specs, and they're based off different GPUs. So one's a 4070, like it's not one's a 4070, like it's not a 4080. So the
Pretty
2
much.
RTX 4080 cards, we have an RTX 4080 16 gig and an RTX 4080 12 gig. Again, the 4080 12 gig should be a 4070.
Well, if that was the only difference, like the VRAM difference, I would be okay with it. But that's not the only difference, which is what makes it shady.
Yeah. So the 4080 16 gig, that's based off the AD103, has 9,728 CUDA cores, and the 16 gigabytes of GDDR6X is clocked at 22.5 gigabits per second. Will give you a memory bandwidth of 720 gigabytes, 320 watt TDP on that. And then the RTX 4080 12 gigabyte, see, it's based off different GPU. This one's based off the AD104, and it has 7,680 CUDA cores. Yeah, 12 gigabytes of GDDR6X, which is clocked at 21 gigabits per second, giving you a memory bandwidth of 504 gigabytes, 285 watts TDP on that card. Both of these will be available in November. 16 gigabyte starts at 1200, basically 1199, and the 12 gigabyte will be 899. What do you think? And again, it says 2 to 4 times faster than the 3080 Ti.
Sure.
And they
which
have
they show in some graphics, right?
Yeah, they have some stuff shown here. Take this.
That's the 4090.
Yeah, well, yeah, the 4090, and then we do have the graph for the 4080s as well.
Right.
These are, like we say with any product that comes out, wait till actual reviews come out from actual reviewers.
Absolutely.
This gives you an idea, but you really want to have the stuff, from hopefully non-biased reviewers. So, I mean, we're going to get a lot more power with these.
Just price wise, they didn't scare me as much as I was expecting, right? I was expecting more a little higher price on all of them, but
do you think that this RTX, they're calling it an RTX 4090 so it is that price? So it is 900?
Oh, the 4080 here?
Yeah.
Yeah, if they would have called this the 4070, they couldn't ask 899, but since they've slapped an 80 on it instead of a 70, maybe.
Yeah, I mean that's
possible.
That's the only thing that I'm thinking of.
I mean, it's using a different die, right? So
yeah,
yeah. And like I said, if it would have just been the difference in memory capacity from one, the 16 to the 12, I wouldn't have any problem with this. But when you have the other different specifications, just kind of shady.
Yeah, it rubs you the wrong way, I'd
say.
So for the RTX 40 series, they're all, or the first 3 cards, they are going to make use of the 16 pin. That is this the 12 VHPWR cable. This is, and wait, hold on. I can bring this up here, but it uses this connection that you guys see.
Right yeah, here. You have your power connections, and then you have the additional pins that we've been talking about.
So there are power supplies. There's like 2 that are actually available right now that you can actually buy that have this connection. And this connection, was it 600 watts total on this connection?
Like that.
Yeah, it's like 600 watts or something total that you can put through a single connection, which just seems crazy to me.
It does.
But because the availability of power supplies isn't out there, and a lot of people have like power supplies are supposed to last you a long time, like 10 years if you buy a good one.
Right.
And if you've, a couple years ago, if you spent a lot of money on a really nice 1,000 watt, 1,200 watt power supply, you don't want to have to buy a new one. So all of the cards are going to come with this fire maker, as I call it, which
fire
takes
maker.
Which you guys can see right here. This takes 4 8-pin PCI Express power connections and puts them into a single 16 pin that you can see right here. Now, the interesting thing about this is that Zotac listed the specs for their card on their websites, and it lists this adapter as having a limited service life of only 30 connect and disconnects, which for most people is fine. Like, you build a computer, you're connecting that once and you're done. But for people like reviewers or testers, or people maybe doing some overclocking, you're moving it around on test benches, you're undoing it, I guess the whole idea is that these connections, they're going to wear out. And, again, you're putting a lot of power through this single connection. It's going to wear out those connections. So that's going to be problematic.
Yeah, they had like a 30 click lifespan. And the crazy thing is, like, the size of the connections on those 8 pins compared to the new connectors, like, it's like you're funneling things down, right, and going into smaller gauge wire.
That's why I call it a fire starter. Yeah, called fire starter.
Yeah, the thing's gonna glow, and it's not because there's an LED in there.
It would be really interesting to see how hot that connection gets. Right, like right here, like where they all converge. Like, how hot? How hot is that when you're gaming? That'd be interesting to see. But yeah, so that's something to definitely keep in mind. with again this cable is supplied by NVIDIA because it says NVIDIA on it. So yeah, every RTX 40 series card will come with this adapter.
Yeah. It's not the most elegant solution. And Damon did point out, though, that our friends Andy over at eTechnics put out a video with Johnny Guru and Corsair. I saw the thumbnail. I hadn't had a chance to watch it yet. I'm interested to see what they said.
Yeah, I haven't seen that video either.
Yeah, he said it won't be hot unless there's a problem. So I don't think it's
that's
like,
good.
We know that they aren't just gonna like slap this together and let it out. And it's not like the old school 4-pin Molex to PCI adapters that you used to get, right? Those things are terrible. But I
and Johnny Guru knows his stuff. He's been around.
Yeah.
He's been around the computer power scene for a very long time. So he definitely knows his stuff. So
absolutely,
we'll have to check that video out. Damon, thanks for pointing that out. NVIDIA is going to release a cut. We had was it a 3090 Ti?
I don't know.
The Cyberpower one,
ridiculous,
or not Cyberpunk one.
Cyberpunk.
So they're releasing again another special edition of Cyberpunk GeForce RTX 4090.
I thought people stopped playing this game like 2 weeks after it came out.
No, apparently it's been revitalized.
Okay, all right.
But they're offering this custom RTX 4090. Has a little Cyberpunk backplate that makes it even larger than it is. And it looks like it says Cyberpunk down here. I don't know if I guess that's part of the card, or is that part of the?
I can tell. It looks like it hangs down.
It looks like it's part of the support bracket because you can see part of the support bracket down here. But you're going to be able to win one. So we have all the information. We have the links in the article if you want to check it out. But you could win a 4090. So definitely get your entry in if you want to be able to do that. That's all through NVIDIA, not through us. So if you don't win, yell at them, not us. Also, a RTX 4090 apparently was sold to somebody in Hong Kong. From what I've read of this story, it was a street vendor. I guess there's like electronic. I mean, I've been to Hong Kong, but I don't remember electronic street vendors when I was there. But apparently this card was sold to somebody. This is the Gigabyte RTX 4090 Gaming OC graphics card. This is indeed the card. I mean, this person basically posted everything except for, Sean, but this is, and we saw leaks of this card. We saw leaks of this box, same box. The funny thing about it is whoever bought this card, they won't be able to use it because NVIDIA hasn't released official drivers, so it's not going to work to its full potential, obviously. But they got the card 2 weeks early, and you can see, again, the adapter that comes with it. This typically never happens, so it's kind of interesting that it happened this time around. Because maybe you'll get, like, we've seen it with a bunch of different products where, like, somebody will get it from Amazon like 2 days early, 1 day early, but this is like a full 2 weeks early when the story drops. So Shinny in the chat says he bought it off the street, fell off a truck. Yeah, that's what it kind of seems like, these crazy stories that come out of these foreign countries.
But I need to find some of these trucks.
Yeah, let me know where those trucks are. I'll definitely
follow them around.
Yeah. Moving over to the Intel side of things, they did have their big event announcing Raptor Lake and Intel Arc A770. So that'll be our first story from the event. Intel officially announced their Arc A770 for $329. I really don't think when they coming out with this card that was their price point they wanted. I really don't think so.
I really higher.
Yeah, and I think just with all the delays,
more performance, and
not even the more performance. It's supposed to perform with what, the 3060 or 3070, which is fine. But again, we've heard about this card for so long. It just launched so late that it could have been like a 529 card at the time when
prices were up.
Yeah, I mean, it could have been a lot higher. So I like the box. It's pretty cool.
I think the GPU looks pretty good.
Yeah, it's not
for an OEM style card. I think it looks fine.
Yeah, it's not bad. So they have all the information on the card if you want to check it out. You can watch their presentation as well. It's online if you want to watch about it. They again provide their graphs on kind of the games you would pretty much would play on it. World of Warcraft, Far Cry 6, some other games, Counter-Strike, and how it performs over. Oh wait, this is the wrong graph. I don't know why this graph is in here. But yeah, I mean this like I said, I think that I was really like, this is going to be crap. And then I don't know. I feel okay with it at the price. I think I would pick one up just to check it out at that price, $329. Get to check out kind of what Intel does. I would really like to see the physical card. And old man in the chat goes, I like the box, Bob. Well, I'm sold. No, I mean it's just like a new. We're used to the Asus box. We're used to even the NVIDIA. We're used to that, but this is something new, and I really want to see the actual card. How well, if it feels plasticky, or does it feel like a nice high-end card? Like, what does it feel like? Pick it up.
It does look. I like the black bracket for
the back
IO bracket, and no, I'm excited to just see how this thing does. Get it in the hands of reviewers, and
now that it's official, we'll see if we did have ASRock. And maybe did MSI have an ARC card as well? But we'll see how many other graphics card manufacturers make their versions of this card as well, and see kind of what happens. So that is definitely exciting. Also, Raptor Lake was made official. We've been talking about this for months as well. Pretty much everything that we expected, like all the leaks we saw, were true. I'll go over the processors really quickly for you guys. And we're just going to go over the three main processors. So three main processors, Core i9, 13900K, Core i7, 13700K, Core i5, 13600K. We kind of knew that that's what they're going to be. Here are the official boxes. I do not like the new i9 box. It still has the wafer inside. If you remember, the 12th gen box had the wafer inside. The wafer, they made the box thinner, so the wafer is just vertical. It's not at an angle, and the wafer is silver. It's not the gold color.
Yeah,
and it looks like a film reel to me. It doesn't look like a wafer per se. Yeah. I don't know. That's just me. But here's what the boxes look like as well. And as far as specs, again, really quickly, the i9 13900K 24 core processor, 8 performance cores, 16 efficient cores. It will, I'm not going to go over the frequencies because it's just redundant, but we have all this stuff here. I always hate it. I always think I'm like, it's going to boost this, it's going to go to this, but then it's like, oh wait, on the performance cores, on the efficient cores, like they're different now. So it's just, to go over. This has a processor base power of 125 watts and max turbo power of 253 watts, MSRP 589. The i7 13700K, 16 core, 8 performance, 8 efficiency. I think this one is like this is kind of what you would want, I would say, for pretty much everyday use. If you do some gaming, if you do some productivity stuff, this is kind of the middle ground. This one, same power spec, so 125 and 253, going to be 409. And then the i5 13600K, 14 cores. So you have 6 performance cores, 8 efficiency cores on this one. 125 watt base power, but the max turbo power is 181 watts. This is going to be 319. I still think prices aren't horrible for what you're getting. Of course, wait till you see performance on these. They did release, here's the gaming graph that we were talking about, that puts it against the Ryzen 9 5950X and the Ryzen 7 5800X3D. And you can see the performance gain in gaming over the 12900K and the 13900K here. Like I said, I think these will come out at a very good time. We're getting, like I said, this is basically like launch season. We're getting new graphics cards. And we
AMD
still haven't heard
CPUs, right?
Yeah, AMD CPUs. We still haven't heard about AMD GPUs yet.
Soon.
We're getting all new motherboards on both sides. Like it's a fun time. And there's availability, which we'll talk about.
I do like on that graph though how they have their specs, right, and they show Intel. It looks kind of like they're beating Ryzen 5950 on everything, but then you see those little hash marks, the little hash mark of the 5800
X3D.
X3D beat it.
Yeah.
I'm glad that they put that in there, right, because it shows that, okay, yeah, we're gonna admit though that AMD still has a product that beats us in a lot of these tests.
Yeah.
Just not,
Yeah, and I think that again, CES coming up, which our next story we'll talk about. But I mean, AMD does have their X3D parts for Ryzen 7000 series that haven't come out yet or haven't been announced.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of speculation around those. Intel also says that they're going to have a special edition of the i9 13900K, going to be the i9 13900KS. We saw this with the 12 series as well. We had a 12900KS. This will boost up to 6 gigahertz out of the box, they say. We don't know if that's on, what cores, how many cores, whatever, but it will boost up to 6 gigahertz, which is super fast. This is going to be highly binned CPUs, obviously. What's the CPU? What's it called? CPU Lottery? Is that the website?
Yeah, but I thought they closed. I thought they stopped.
Remember? Oh, yeah, they did close. Well, there was a website where you could buy highly binned CPUs that were guaranteed to overclock or boost to a certain speed. And then again, Intel is just making those parts available. So that's what this is going to be. This is supposed to announce, we assume, at CES 2023 in January. Again, the same time that we expect AMD to announce their Ryzen 7000 X3D parts. And it's going to be the same thing here, where we just had Ryzen 7000 series launch, and they're saying we're the fastest gaming processor. And when 13th gen comes out, they're going to say we're the fastest gaming processor, right? And then Ryzen X3D is going to come out, and then they're going to say we're the fastest gaming processor. And then if you get the 13900KS, you'll be like, oh, we're the fastest gaming. It's going to go back and forth, which I like. I like
absolutely.
I
it's
like
you just refresh your browser for the new story, right? Like to see who's winning the speed competition there.
Yeah, and Damon at PC Test Bench, he had said 6 gigahertz out of the box, just insane. Yeah, I mean, it's gonna see like how many cores is that actually gonna boost? How long is it gonna boost for 6 gigahertz?
How much cooling do you need?
Yeah, how much cooling do you need for that? It will be interesting to see. But I like them battling back and forth. And again, we've talked about this, how AMD has kind of taken over the, a lot more people have moved over. They've definitely changed market shares, and I like the competition. It forces Intel to give us good stuff, which we were on quad core for how long? I mean, a very long time.
Yeah, until they had to, right?
Because until they had to. So I like the competition back and forth. It's healthy competition. So really excited for that. And our last news story is something that I thought you would be interested in, Brian, because it is a water cooling product. So EK launched this 4-in-1 product called, where is it? So
the quantum velocity.
Yeah, EK quantum velocity cooling engine.
Cooling engine, yeah.
So the CPU block has an integrated DCC 4.2 PWM pump, which is cooled by metal part of the block, acting as a heat sink. Yep. So it's so if I get this right, this is a CPU block that has a pump built into it.
Yep.
Is that right?
Also a reservoir. And and it's
okay, yeah. So it's a block pump reservoir and heatsink combo, all in this package, and it's basically made for small form factor builds where you wouldn't need a larger reservoir per se, right?
Right. Yeah, and I mean it's not a huge reservoir by any means. It to me looks like just a mono block, right? Yeah, there's a picture of it there. And if you would have told me, like, anytime I hear like 4-in-1 and it's related to like any sort of computer product, it's from some no-name company, you're like, I don't want anything to do with a 4-in-1 product, right? Like this, however, is like, yes, this is the 4-in-1 product that we want and need, right? No, this is very cool. Yeah, small form factor, because you're always trying to figure out, okay, you've got to use one of those pump res combos that takes up a 120 millimeter fan slot or something like that to get everything you need for a small form factor build. This just puts it all together, stacks it on top of your CPU socket, and does the job of multiple
And
components all in one.
Damon says that, you have clearance for RAM slots as well, so
Yep.
it's not, overly taking up a lot of space.
Yeah, it's just tall, right? Taller than, but I say tall. It's no taller than a tower cooler, right? It's shorter
Yeah,
than a tower cooler still. So
it's no taller, and it's much smaller than a tower cooler, and it's about the
absolutely.
same size you would see on like a lot of AIOs, because those have
Yeah,
the
some of the
pump built
large
in.
AIOs. Yep.
Yeah, so it's not overly big.
No,
Gonna be 329.90 in euros. That includes VAT, so that's probably like 300 US.
that's not
Uh,
terrible.
yeah, so yeah, not terrible. So, is that something you're interested in? You're doing a small form factor water cooling build, something you might want to consider, because
Yep.
you are limited when it comes to space. That's for sure, and this definitely helps that out. So, definitely go ahead and check that out. Coming next week, I have an NVMe SSD. Basically, going to be one of the better performing Gen 4 drives out there. The WD Black SN850X NVMe SSD. I have the 2 TB version. And this is just like all new Gen 4s. For the most part, they're going to, without heatsink, with heatsink. The heatsink is actually pretty cool, and the heatsink does have some RGB lighting on it. But I got the non-heatsink version because we're doing this on normal PC.
Right.
So non-heatsink version, super fast speeds. I believe it's 7,300 read, 6,600 write. Yeah, all in-house parts from Western Digital as well. So definitely stay tuned for that. And then I'm taking a look at a laptop, and I'm actually really impressed with this laptop. Like, I took it out and I was like, damn, this thing's like actually really nice. So I'm taking a look at the Lenovo Yoga 9i. This is their latest iteration of their Yoga 9. I stands for Intel. They offer this in 14 and 15 inch. I have the 14 inch. And these pictures just like don't do it justice. Like, it is super, super sleek. It has, so I wish I could, like, their website is pretty horrible, honestly.
Not being able to click these pictures and
yeah,
yeah.
Well, anyways, the hinge. So this is a Yoga, so you can fully turn it around into a tablet. But this hinge right here basically has a sound bar built into it, like the same kind of tech as a sound bar. So you have 2 tweeters in the sound bar and then 2 subs on the side, and it's the best sounding laptop with integrated speakers I've ever heard. Not sure how many people are going to use that, but if this is like your single device that you're using at home, and you want some better sound without buying speakers, this is actually really good. But overall, it's thin and light. You can use it as a tablet. It does come with a pen, which I'll go over in the review and everything like that. So I like it. Decently affordable for what you're getting as well. A bunch of different screen up, a lot of other stuff we'll talk about in the review. But I'm excited to take a look at a laptop for a change. So as we come to the end here, we talk about anything tech related. You were on vacation. Did you do anything tech related on vacation? Did you fly your drone?
No, I didn't. No, and nah, I just didn't have time. I took a ton of pictures.
Okay.
So, that I was busy doing that. I didn't really do anything tech. I mean, like I said, I brought that battery, utilized it to charge things, and I brought a bunch of charging cables as well. But most of the devices I was charging were Type-C, so I just pulled that thing out and just plug stuff into it. That way I didn't have to plug something into the wall, find outlets.
It just makes it so much easier when you just have like one thing.
Yeah, and I didn't ever need to fully charge a device while I was out there, because like my phone, I had it plugged into the car whenever we were in it for Android Auto on the dashboard, so I was always getting it charged up, so it was never even going down on battery at all. So that's probably about all I did. I just didn't. I was outside enjoying the outdoors, seeing wildlife, things like that. So didn't need technology.
Yeah. I mean, when you're out there, as long as you have your your camera charged,
my camera,
phone, phone charged, you're good to go. Yep. I've been working on a lot of reviews. I did buy a new Ryzen processor, so I'm pretty excited about that. So I bought the Ryzen 9 7900X the day it became available. I didn't like rush to buy it. I was like, oh, maybe I'll buy it. So we can review a bunch of motherboards, X670E and X670 motherboards. Didn't have any, like, before when I bought, so I bought the 12900K2. I bought that after launch, and I paid like a $70 premium on top of the price, just because that's like what they were going for at the time. This I bought at normal retail price on Newegg. It's been a while since because I order most things on Amazon, but they weren't available on Amazon. So I went to Newegg, was able to buy it. I got it I ordered it yesterday afternoon. I got it today, like this morning. So shout out to Newegg. They did a great job in just getting it to me, no issues. But that's a good sign when you can buy it on launch day, like well after the actual like official launch period. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And it was available. Now the 7950X was sold out. So if you wanted the high end, but I got the 7900, which I think I'll be pretty happy with. 12 core, 24 thread. I think it will be a good processor to do a bunch of testing on. I haven't even taken it out of the box, like you said. Like it's completely like sealed up. Like the only issue I have with this box is like if you look behind me, I have all the displays of this box, but this one has the processor in the center
showing.
So once I'm using the processor, it's just an empty vessel, which I'm not.
So Old Man did his work ahead of time. He says Drone Racing League Simulator and Runbow is free on Epic tomorrow.
Oh, nice. 10. Yeah, so, free games.
And then also, don't want to forget, tomorrow night, Home Gadget Geeks. Bob and I will be on there with Jim from chat. We're going to be talking about a build that Jim's looking forward to doing, and it sounds like he wants to talk some of this NVIDIA news as well. So Home Gadget Geeks podcast. You got it right there. TheAverageGuy.tv. Tune in 8 p.m. Central. We'll be live on YouTube, and you can check us out there. Interact with us.
We'll put it up
as well.
On all of our social media. ThinkComputers social media will be on there. So really excited to talk about Jim about some new stuff, see what he's up to. I haven't talked to him since the last time we were on, and I'm sure he's been really busy and just doing different stuff, and we'll get to chat. So I'm pretty excited to do that as well. But we're going to be jumping over to Twitch and playing some games. I'm excited. I mean, I've had a long week so far of just like working like crazy. So I'm excited to let off some steam and play some games. So we're playing some Apex Legends like we always do. We will be over on Twitch, like I said, twitch.tv/ThinkComputers. So definitely go ahead and head on over there. If you want to keep on hanging out with us, Ryan hosts that stream, so you won't see my face. See Ryan's face, which is a little sunburnt, I would say. I got
that little mountain sun, standing out fishing for hours, and then
also, Old Man said real quick, Need for Speed Heat Deluxe is $3.50 on Steam, 95% off. So,
nice.
But yeah, we're gonna head on over there. Thanks everybody for coming out. Everybody in the chat. We had a lot of people in the chat tonight. We had Old Man. We have Damon from PC Test Bench. .com. We have Shinny in there. We have Jim from Home Gadget Geeks. We had Corey in here. We had Nelson. We had a ton of people in the chat. So shout out to everybody the chats. And we will see everybody next week. Again, if you want to keep on hanging out, go to twitch.tv/ThinkComputers, and we'll see